Welcome to Election Unspun, a Pacifica Radio and Free Speech Radio News production. I'm Leanne Caldwell. As the energy debate continues between Barack Obama and John McCain, Obama has taken it to a new level, to gas stations across the United States. A new ad that says McCain voted against alternative energy and against fuel efficiency standards will air on monitors at gas stations in more than 20 states. The Democratic Party has also joined in. They've unveiled a new logo for this election, Exxon McCain. The logo, fake checks, and a website depicting Exxon McCain attempts to tie John McCain, who adamantly supports expanded offshore drilling, to big oil companies. Meanwhile, John McCain spoke about energy at a nuclear plant in Michigan, where he called for more nuclear power. Voter advocacy groups are increasing their watch over state election officials. Reports of voter registration purging have already surfaced in Kansas, Michigan, and Mississippi. Edward Hales Jr., senior attorney with the Advancement Project, is watching the states closely for voter purging, which tends to impact African Americans and Latinos more often. Hales first speaks about what voter purging is.
I define it as an illegal removal program that takes eligible people off the rolls. There are proper list maintenance programs according to the National Voter Registration Act that provides adequate protections for voters. But when election officials remove illegally without affording voters those protections, then we call that purging.
Could you also give us an example of times of ways that this does happen? Is it when they try to match databases? Is it when do they look at death records? What happens?
Well, yes, it happens when election officials attempt to match voter registration applications, or new submissions, new application information against their state databases, and it could be the Social Security database. And we have found that often there are 46% mismatches based on flaws in the Social Security Administration database. So those failure rates cause problems with voters getting removed from the rolls or not getting on the rolls because of those high failure rates with the Social Security Administration.
So a misspelling of a last name could cause someone's name to be purged.
That's right, or the transposition of the last four digits of the Social Security number, for example.
Is this happening as we speak in any states?
It's happening in many states. Unfortunately, there's a large number of election officials who have not made proper preparations for the large number of newly registered persons or persons who are attempting to register to vote for the first time. The applications are being submitted, and it's in large numbers, and it simply overwhelms the system in some cases.
How is this allowed to happen? Aren't there federal laws or regulations that prohibit things like this from taking place?
Yes, there are protections in the National Voter Registration Act that should be enforced by election officials to ensure that voters who are eligible to vote and who want to vote won't be put off the rolls without going through certain procedures. Unfortunately, election officials don't always follow those procedures.
How come every person isn't just automatically registered to vote?
That's because we don't have a right to vote enshrined in our United States Constitution. Other nations in the world, other democratic nations, have those types of laws, and they have the procedures that allow citizens to become automatically registered when they turn 18 years of age. It's something that we should strive to make certain is in our Constitution.
That was Edward Hales Jr. with the Advancement Project. Section 7 of the National Voters Registration Act says that states are required to offer voter registration to anyone applying for public assistance. Recently, however, several voting and low-income advocacy groups have charged that states, including Florida, are not doing their job. Election Unspun producer Karen Miller spoke with Joanne Green, Florida policy director from the low-income family advocacy group ACORN. Green says ACORN found out about the problem by monitoring the public assistance offices.
Several states around the country, it's a national problem, and it's particularly resonant here in Florida. They're not doing it. And it's not just a matter of asking people, do you want to register to vote? If they say yes, it's not saying, oh, well, there's a table down the hall, there's some forms on there, go grab one and fill one out. State law requires that each person is handed and given a voter registration card, and it's simply not being done. And if you look at the stats and the statistics, you'll see that there's been a huge decline since the mid-90s, I think, in the amount of people that have been registered this way. So we decided that, we should do something about it.
So what have been some of the responses that you've received from these states you've contacted and basically said, we know you're not registering folks and you're not following the law? What have they said about that?
They're taking it seriously, and they're installing certain changes. I think they've added additional training. They've revamped a lot of their training. They've redesigned the forms that are being used. Rather than having two forms, one that asks if voters would like to be, or residents, I should say, would like to be registered to vote, and then handing them a second form that enables them to do that. They're trying to amalgamate those two processes into one, so it kind of lessens on the paperwork. The main argument that we're having is, obviously, in the age of computers, a lot of this stuff, when you apply for public assistance, rather than being done with paper forms, is now being done online. Most of the people that apply for public assistance are low income. And, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I'm suggesting, or I'm guessing that most of the people don't, or likely don't, have computers in their home. So there is computer terminals that these people are using. And the NVRA is saying, if something's done online, there's the online option that the paperwork, the necessary and the relevant paperwork, will be mailed to a consumer's home. What we're saying is that's not enough. So we're saying, is it going to be so hard? And what you need to do is to follow the leg of the law and actually hand someone and have the forms available on site, and it's not what they're doing.
That was Karen Miller speaking with Joanne Green of ACORN. Election Unspun can be found at www.fsrn.org. Election Unspun is produced by Karen Miller and Nathan Moore. I'm Leanne Caldwell. What's going on while I'm singing the blues? If you open up your ears, you can hear the news.